One silver box. One wedding night. One secret that burned a perfect family to the ground. When Nola Merrin left her sister's reception, she thought she was walking away for good. But the scream that followed proved the truth always finds its way back home. The air in Briar Hollow always smelled like pine and money, crisp, expensive, and indifferent. The kind of place that looked perfect on postcards but carried its own quiet hierarchy, where every smile came with an appraisal. My sister, Lydia Merrin, had chosen the Windermere Lakeside estate for her wedding, glass ballroom, candlelit terrace, and a lake so still it mirrored perfection. She wanted charm, photographs, envy. She got all three. I arrived alone, 3 hours up from Cambridge, my hands stiff on the steering wheel and my mother's last text replaying like a bad song. Please, Nola, no drama today. It's Lydia's day. That was all I ever was in her sentences. An afterthought, a caution. By the time I reached the resort, the parking lot was already lined with imported cars. Men in tuxedos laughed too loudly. Women adjusted satin and diamonds that sparkled like performance. I parked at the far edge, where the gravel crunched underfoot and the lake's reflection fractured into ripples. Inside, the hallway smelled of lilies and bleach. I could hear the DJ's voice drifting from the ballroom. 10 minutes until the first dance. Like a countdown to some carefully rehearsed joy. Mom stood near the entrance, her pearls perfect, her expression tighter than her smile. Dad avoided my eyes. The coordinator, a woman in black with a clipboard and a voice too practiced to be kind, stopped me mid-step. Miss Merrin? Yes. Her eyes flicked down the list. You're assigned to hallway section B. I blinked. Excuse me? She hesitated, the way people do when they realize they're about to insult you, but are paid not to care. Overflow seating, she said. Just through there. She pointed toward a side door. Not the grand glass entrance with chandeliers and violins, but a narrow hallway lined with bins of melting ice and catering trays. There, a small folding table waited for me, set beside a steel trash can that hummed faintly under fluorescent light. For a moment, I thought it was a joke. Lydia had always loved jokes that didn't sound like jokes. But no one corrected it. So I sat. The chill from the marble floor crept through the thin soles of my shoes. Every time the service door swung open, I caught flashes of crystal glasses, laughter, chandeliers, my family framed in gold light. Mom adjusting Lydia's veil. Dad laughed at something her new husband, Noah Brandt, said. And me, outside. I smoothed the skirt of my wine-colored dress, the one I'd chosen because it was beautiful, but not noticeable. I pressed my hand against the small silver-wrapped box on the table beside me. The gift I'd picked with care, wrapped in patience. Guess you don't count. That's what Lydia had said earlier, when I'd caught her in the hallway for a moment before the ceremony. She'd smiled, the kind of smile that looks warm in photos but cuts in real life. Guess you don't count. The words had landed so softly, they almost felt accidental, until I saw her eyes. They weren't cruel by mistake. I hadn't replied then. I'd just stepped back, let her pass, and watched her walk toward her perfect day. Now, sitting by the trash cans, I told myself the same lie I'd been whispering for years. It's fine. You don't need them. But the truth pressed against my ribs, steady and cold. Maybe I didn't need them, but they didn't have the right to erase me. The service door swung open again. The scent of champagne and lilies spilled into the hallway. A server passed by, humming. Through the gap, I caught a glimpse of Lydia and Noah on the dance floor, her white gown glowing under chandeliers, their laughter flawless. The perfection looked heavy, fragile, and I wondered if she knew what I knew. 3 weeks ago, I met one of her former coworkers in a small cafe in Somerville. We'd been talking about ordinary things, coffee, deadlines, Boston weather, until her name came up. Lydia Merrin. The woman had hesitated, then said, she used to brag about that guy she's marrying, said he was rich, sentimental, and easy to control. She'd laughed nervously. She said something like, a few tears and a good story, and I'll have the house, the name, and the money by Christmas. My coffee had gone cold. I hadn't planned to do anything with that information. Not until today. When I was little, I used to think silence was strength, that being the calm one made me better. But silence only teaches people how to ignore you. Now, it was my turn to speak. Quietly. Precisely. I reached for the silver-wrapped box beside me. Inside was a delicate crystal frame. Beneath it, folded neatly, was a note and printed screenshots of Lydia's messages. Every cruel word. Every joke about manipulation. Every smile sharpened into text. Not revenge. Just truth, gift-wrapped. I stood, smoothed my dress, and walked back down the hallway. At the reception table, the planner was distracted, fussing over the cake display. I slipped the box onto the pile labeled to Lydia and Noah, right on top. My handwriting was careful, steady. The ballroom glittered through the glass. I caught Lydia's reflection, mid-laugh, radiant, adored, untouchable. Let the truth find its way. I turned and walked toward the exit. The Vermont air hit me like clarity, cold, clean, final. The lake shimmered under the lights, a mirror I didn't need anymore. Behind me, the DJ's voice rose, the crowd clapping. Their perfect night was about to turn. I didn't look back. But 5 minutes later, the chandeliers went quiet. And a scream cut through the music. The scream shattered the night like glass hitting marble, sharp, sudden, undeniable. I froze halfway across the courtyard, hand still on my car door. The echo rolled across the lake, ricocheting off the water before dissolving into the dark Vermont air. Then came silence. A kind of silence that makes you feel the distance between heartbeats. From inside the ballroom, the music stopped mid-measure. Voices blurred. First confusion, then disbelief. The chandelier light flickered against the frosted windows, the reflection warping like a snow globe beginning to crack. I didn't move. Just stood there, the cold biting through my sleeves. I knew what that scream meant. Inside, the truth had found its way. The laughter had died the moment Lydia Brandt, once Merrin, lifted the lid of that silver box. At first, it looked ordinary. A gift like any other. Glass frame. Folded note. A cousin had suggested opening it early, something to amuse the guests. Lydia, always craving an audience, obliged. When the paper slipped free and fluttered open, her smile faltered. The air changed. The printed screenshots gleamed under the chandelier light, pale blue chat bubbles and black words that burned themselves into every watching face. He's sweet, but naive. Once the prenup signed, it's just timing. By Christmas, the house will be mine. The murmur spread like fire through dry grass. Noah's hand had stilled on her waist. His jaw tightened. The laughter turned brittle around them. Someone whispered, "Is that real?" Another said, "It's her number." Lydia's fingers trembled as she reached for the papers. This isn't someone's. But Noah was already reading. Each page turned slower than the last, the color draining from his face. His best man leaned in, eyes widening as he read over his shoulder. The DJ fumbled with the music controls. The violinist stopped playing entirely. The only sound was the faint hum of the chandeliers and the paper crackling in Noah's hands. He's easy. Cry once, and he'll buy anything. Mom and Dad will love the guest house once he's settled. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Lydia's mother-in-law, Victoria Brandt, crossed the floor with the calm precision of someone used to delivering verdicts. Her pearls caught the light like frost. "Those messages came to me this morning," she said quietly, holding out her phone. "Forwarded by your stylist. You sent them to the wrong group chat." Lydia's voice broke. "No, this isn't someone setting me up." Noah's eyes didn't move from the page. "The dates match your trip to Lisbon. The photos match your phone." He folded the printouts once, twice. His knuckles were white. "You did this, Lydia. You made a fool out of me." The silence deepened until even the clinking glasses seemed afraid to make a sound. Then, like a wire snapping, Lydia screamed, "It's her. It's Nola." She planted it. Every head turned. Victoria didn't blink. "Your sister didn't need to plan anything. The truth has a way of walking through locked doors." Lydia's breath came fast, shallow. Her eyes darted to the crowd, faces she'd charmed, now reflecting only pity. Mom and Dad stood frozen near the head table. Mom's hands shook around a half-empty champagne flute. Dad's shoulders sagged like he'd aged 10 years in one night. "Say something," Lydia cried. "Dad, tell them I'd never." But he didn't. He looked at her, then said quietly, "We raised you to think the world owed you applause. Maybe this is the encore you earned." Her face crumpled. "You're taking her side?" He sighed. "It's not sides anymore, Lydia. It's consequences." I could see flashes through the ballroom windows, silhouettes, gestures, the chaos I'd predicted and dreaded in equal measure. For a second, guilt pricked at me. Then memory drowned it out. The hallway, the trash cans, the endless years of being invisible. I'd told the truth. Nothing more. The scream faded into muffled sobs. A moment later, the heavy ballroom doors swung open. Guests began spilling out, murmuring, their shoes clicking on the stone steps. I caught fragments as they passed. "Did you see her face?" "Noah just walked out." "Her sister?" "I heard she left before it happened." She knew. Their whispers trailed like smoke. One woman glanced at me as she hurried by, eyes wide with recognition. I didn't hide. I just watched. Through the glass, Lydia stood alone under the chandelier, mascara streaked, veil askew, surrounded by the remnants of her own perfection. The silver box lay open at her feet, the crystal frame shattered beside it. Her hands trembled, empty. It would have been easy to feel satisfaction, but all I felt was quiet, the kind that comes when noise finally burns itself out. By midnight, the ballroom was nearly empty. Staff swept up glass, whispering under their breath. The band packed their instruments in awkward silence. Mom approached Lydia cautiously. "Sweetheart." Lydia flinched. "Don't call me that." "You should come with us," Mom said softly. "We'll fix this." "Fix what?" Lydia's laugh was cracked, sharp. "My life? My reputation? Or the part where you finally noticed the wrong daughter?" Mom's mouth opened, then closed. Dad spoke instead, voice low but steady. "Apologize to your sister." The words seemed to echo off the glass. Lydia blinked. "What?" "You owe her an apology," he said. "You humiliated her tonight. You've done it for years. You just didn't expect the mirror to turn." For the first time, Lydia didn't have an answer. I started the car, headlights washing over the gravel path. The reflection of the ballroom shimmered faintly across the lake, distorted by ripples. My phone buzzed on the seat beside me, once, twice, then again. "Mom." "Dad." Unknown number. I didn't answer. The night air felt lighter now. Justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it exhales. As I pulled onto the road, the resort lights shrank in the rearview mirror. My hands were steady on the wheel. For the first time, silence didn't mean erasure. It meant peace. By the time I reached Cambridge, dawn was unraveling across the horizon, soft and pink. I parked outside my apartment, the hum of the tires fading into the morning quiet. Inside, everything smelled faintly of coffee and rain. I hung my dress over a chair. The deep wine fabric caught the light, still flawless, unblemished, like armor. The city outside stirred awake. Delivery trucks, early joggers, the normal pulse of life. My phone buzzed again. A new message from Mom. "Please answer, Nola. We didn't know." But they had. They always had. Every silence, every look, every polite dismissal was its own small betrayal. I placed the phone face down on the counter and opened my laptop instead. A map of Maine blinked to life, blue coastline dotted with small towns. I clicked one at random. Harbor's Edge Inn. I booked it for a week. A week by the water sounded like healing. Before leaving, I stepped onto the balcony. The November air bit gently at my skin. Across the river, sunlight began cutting through the skyline, splitting the city into gold and shadow. I thought about the night before, about Lydia's voice breaking, about Dad's quiet truth, about how something inside me had finally stopped needing permission to exist. I smiled, faintly. "Sometimes," I whispered, "the loudest revenge isn't a scream. It's the sound of your own footsteps leaving the room. I wasn't walking away in defeat. I was walking toward myself. At Lydia's wedding, I'd been seated beside the trash cans, discarded unseen. This morning, I sat by the river. Same silence. Different meanings. Back then it was humiliating. Now it was peaceful. And for the first time in my life, Nola Merrin didn't disappear when the music stopped. She began.